well, this is nice and safe. I'm like, oh, okay. Wake me up when she comes. And she came round. The only problem was, this is a bit like culture shock. I likened it on Tuesday to, it's a bit like somebody who's only lived on one of the upper base camps of Everest, being dropped into Singapore in the middle of the rush hour. You know, you can imagine the culture shock. Jacqueline had grown up in a home where verbal communication was optional. Silence was preferred. I've never known a family that could communicate through eyesight and looks and glares, anything like her family. And so communication was optional. In our family, it was just manic. The only time we were together, and my mother said she birthed 4 natural-born leaders, and every one of us would chatter and talk and everything else. And so this poor little girl one Sunday comes round, knocks on the door, with her whole world being like her home. And for as long as I can remember, finally we were just, I don't know what we were talking about. My mother called us all through for tea, and we sat round. And she'll tell you out of her own mouth if you don't believe me. She was like a goldfish at a tennis match. I mean, red hair, you can just imagine it, can't you? You know a goldfish, when you take it out of water, goes... And then the tennis match was like this. Because the only time, and we were crazy, the only time we were together was at meal times. So the banter and the leg pulling, the sarcasm, the ridicule, the leg pulling, all of this stuff would go on. And she's used to nobody talking to her. And it was literally like a goldfish at a tennis match. It was hilarious. Now everybody laughs at it, but... Anyway, Sunday evening meeting goes by, I can't tell you anything about that. And at the end of it, the hall that they were renting at the time had a little tea and coffee hatch where you could go through kitchen. So they would serve teas after the evening meeting, coffee, soft drinks or whatever. And I remember, I don't know anything about the whole day other than this. The end of the day, she's stood at this literature table that had all these things that were going on around that time, browsing through. And I thought, you know what? She stood on her own, I'd better be nice, you know, she's been round for tea, made the effort, you know. So I grabbed a soft drink, turned around, she's looking at this leaflet for a concert. And I went, oh, are you thinking of going to that? She goes, yeah. I said, yes, so am I. And then I heard these words. I never thought them. I never planned them. I just heard these words. Shall we go together? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was me. No, let me have the words back. I think she said yes. She did. She said yes. Oh my gosh, I've got a date. Oh, now what do I do? Because I've never had one before. And I never really expected to have one. You see, you've got to understand, what was I, 18 at the time? Almost 19. I'd just finished 14 years of abuse. People weren't safe. Everybody I knew was unsafe. All I knew was rejection. All I knew was pain. All I knew was trauma. All I knew was abuse. And it's like, no, I've set up for rejection. I'm set up for abuse. I'm going to be hurt, crushed. Give me the words back. And she said yes. And then I hadn't got a clue what to do. I couldn't tell you about the rest of the week because I had a date. I'll let you into secrets. Sometimes it's best to marry the first one that you go out with. So I did. I didn't know I'd ever get a second chance. I'd got one to say yes and that was enough, thank you. It's like, oh. So we went out on this date. The concert was called Free. Which is always a good, that always gets me motivated, you know, if it's free, that's fine. But it was just the title of this worship group's new album, and there were several bands in the group, and for the first time ever in their history, two of the bands were going to be in the same place on the same night, so it was a big thing. They were going to launch this new album called Free, which I actually took for free, but that wasn't the point, you were supposed to pay for it. So she had to go and redeem me out of that mess during the week. And there were two people from church there. Two ladies from church that somehow I met in the intermission that was on in the concert, and one of them said, "Would you like a lift home?" Girl, there I am in all my second-hand clothes. Oh, I haven't told you how we got in, have I? Thank you. We're stood on the steps. I've got her on my arm. I'm in all my second-hand clothes.